everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. So my name is Kaya. I am CEO of The Floor, and I am so delighted to introduce Kira from PPL, who will be hosting the session with us this evening. Hi, Kira.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. So ultimately, PPL is a very confusing topic for a lot of people, and we all know it's the UK's music licensing company, but it would be really helpful for everybody who's watching this evening to get an overview of what PPL is, how they can use it, and probably debunk all the sort of myths and theories that people have about PPL. So yeah, thank you once again for joining us. I'm going to hand over to you, and yeah, we can get started.
Thank you. So yeah, as Kai has just said there, my name's Kira. I work at PPL. I am a relationship manager there. So essentially what my job is, I work with performers and some rights holders as well to make sure that they get paid fairly for the use of their music in various different places. So I've got a little presentation that I'll run through, which will hopefully answer and give you an idea about what we do at PPL, and then we're going to have some questions at the end that you can ask as well. So let me just share my screen. And we'll get started. So hopefully you can all see my screen. So we're just going to run through an introduction to PPL today. So let's get started. So we'll go through what we do at PPL, the difference between PPL and PRS for music, the market, so who we actually license, our international collections, revenue and distributions, how we manage your data, and how to maximize your membership. And at the end, we'll go through a Q&A. So if you've got any questions, there's no such thing as a silly question. So please do ask anything that comes up as I go through the presentation, and we'll answer those at the end. So first off, what we do. So yeah, as we mentioned at the start, it can be quite confusing what we do, what other companies do, when you should be a member with us, when you should be a member with other societies and different companies as well. So let's have a look at what PPL does. So we were established in 1934, and essentially our job is to make sure that those who invest their time, talent, and money to make recorded music are fairly paid for their work. So we are the music licensing company for over 120,000 performers and recording rights holders, and we license recorded music when it's played in public. So that could be in a shop, in a pub, in a club, in a restaurant, in a waiting room, anywhere that's in public that recorded music is played. Also, we broadcast, we collect for broadcast on radio and TV in the UK, and we also have over 100 international agreements with the PPLs of different countries. So if your music gets played in a pub in Italy or a radio station in Croatia, then we can collect for that. So just to give you an idea of what we've collected, so in 2020, we collected 225.7 million for our members for the use of their recorded music. So who we represent. So our members are anyone who's performed on recorded music, that's a performer, or anyone who owns the rights to recordings can also join PPL as a rights holder. So if you own the master right to the recording, you can join as a rights holder. If you have performed on a recording, so that could be anything from vocals, violin, guitar, triangle, claps. If you've made a sound in a recording, then we can collect your performer royalties. And also it's worth mentioning that if you are a performer who also owns the master rights, so maybe you're self-releasing, maybe you own the rights to someone else's recordings, then you can join, and you should join as both a performer and a rights holder. Because when we collect revenue for a recording, we will pay out about half the revenue to the performer and about half to the rights holder. So if you're both, you need to claim both of those. So a really, really common question that we get is, what is the difference between PPL and PRS? Do I need to be a member of both? One. So this is a little bit of a comparison here. So at PPL, as I mentioned, we collect for the performers and the master rights holders of the recording, so the recorded music. So we license recorded music for broadcast on TV, so background music. So if your song is played in the background of, let's say, Love Island or Coronation Street, then we can collect for that. Radio, we collect for airplay in the UK and internationally, and certain digital media services as well. And the difference between us and PRS, so PRS, they represent the songwriters, composers, and publishers for the use of musical compositions and lyrics. So they license musical works for broadcast on TV, radio, and online. So they also do collect for live performances as well. So if you've performed your music live or someone else's music live, then PRS would collect for that. So essentially, we collect for very similar things, but just for different people. So if you're just a performer, you would just sign up with PPL. If you're just a rights holder, you would sign up with just PPL. If you're just a songwriter or a publisher or a composer, you would just sign up with PRS. But obviously, quite often, you might be a performer and a songwriter, and in that case, you would sign up with both societies. So I hope that makes sense, but if you've got any questions, do pop them in the chat. So the market, who we actually license, where does the money come from that we release to our members? So we license over 250 TV broadcast channels. So that could be Channel 4, BBC, ITV. And we license over 400 over-the-air radio stations. So that could be, Radio 1, Radio 2, etc. And we also license over 1,800 online radio services, as well as hospital radio, community radio, and student radio as well. So that's where the revenue comes from for radio, TV, and online. The other side of the business is we also collect from public performance. So when we say public performance, we don't mean live. What we mean is when recorded music is played in a public place. So we license over 400,000 UK businesses and organisations that play recorded music in their premises. So as I mentioned before, that could include bars, nightclubs, shops, offices, factories, gyms, anywhere where recorded music is played in public. So just another little thing to mention here. So I mentioned the difference between PPL and PRS. We are two separate companies. We collect for different people, and you need to be a member of the different companies to claim your royalties from those societies. However, so pre-2018, if a business, so like I mentioned before, pubs, bars, clubs, restaurants, needed to get a license to play recorded music in their business, they would have to go to PPL and get a license to pay the performers and the rights holders. They would also have needed to go to PRS to get a license to pay the songwriters, composers, and publishers. However, in 2018, we launched a joint venture, which is called PPL PRS, which you might have guessed is an amalgamation just on the licensing side, so just for those businesses to purchase a joint license, which is called the music license. So now if a bar or a pub or a shop or club, etc., wants to play recorded music in their business, they would go to the joint venture, which is PPL PRS, to get that license so that they can play recorded music in their business. PPL and PRS are still different companies in terms of the creative side and the performer and the songwriter side. But if you are a business, then you would go to PPL PRS. So I mentioned before, we obviously collect in the UK, but we also collect internationally as well. So we have over 100 agreements with a number of territories worldwide to collect royalties for when recorded music is played outside of the UK. So our international revenue in 2020 reached over £85 million for performers and recording rights holders. And PPL is the global leader in collecting performance royalties internationally, and we've collected more than 500 million since 2006. So PPL has an agreement with every country in the EU for recording rights holders. And in 2020, we signed new agreements on behalf of recording rights holders in India, South Africa, and Thailand, while signing an agreement for performers in Panama as well. So we obviously collect in some of the biggest territories, which bring in a lot of revenue for our members. But there's also revenue to be had in smaller territories as well. So that's a real strength of PPL. We have an amazing international department that has agreements with all these different societies. So like I said at the beginning, if your song gets played on the radio in a territory outside the UK, or in a shop or a pub, etc., then we can collect for that as well. And if you are already a member of PPL and you don't have international collections with us, you can get in contact. I've got our email address at the end, and let us know that you want us to collect worldwide, and we can start doing that. And if you're not a member yet, when you sign up, it will ask you if you want international collections with us, and it's just a tick box to do that. So which countries do we currently hold agreements with? So there's a little bit of an overview on your screen. Like I said, we have over 100 agreements. This is just a snapshot of some of the major territories that we collect in. So as you can see, lots of agreements in the EU. And some of our biggest territories there would be the US and Germany, and some of the other EU territories as well. So international revenue. So as you can see from the screen, year on year from 2016, there's been quite a good increase in our international revenue that we have collected. Obviously 2020, I'm sure you've all heard, we had a little thing called COVID going on. So obviously with shops and pubs and clubs and everything closed for most of 2020, we've seen a bit of a decline in our international collections, but only slightly. So, you know, things could have been, you know, a lot worse. The fact that our revenue is still 85.9 million, just slightly down from 2019, is really great, considering, you know, most of the businesses have been closed for that period. So yeah, that's just a little snapshot of our international revenue. So this is broken down by countries. You can see some of the biggest territories that we collect in. So this was 2020. So at the top there, Germany, a huge territory for collections. The US, France, Netherlands, Italy, Belgium, Spain, Denmark, and Japan. And as you can see, third on the list there is others. So that is other territories that aren't on this list. So even though there might be smaller territories that aren't in the top 10 or the top 20 territories combined, if you mandate us to collect in those territories, it can add up to quite a lot of revenue that comes through. So cost rates. So PPL's international collection fee is 7%. So PPL is not for profit. So we don't charge any commission, markup costs, or have any hidden charges, and no further cost is applied to UK monies. So we have sort of source costs where essentially we apply fees just however much it costs for us to collect that money. So we don't have any commission on top of that. So tax, a very, very exciting topic, I'm sure you can agree. So we were the first music licensing company to be given something called qualified intermediary, or QI status, by the US tax authorities. So what happens is when a society collects revenue from the US, that revenue is subject to a withholding tax of 30%. So let's say you earned £1,000 from the US. So you're your recordings got usage in the US and there was £1,000 for you, you would only receive £700 of that. So it would be taxed at a rate of 30%. However, because PPL is a qualified intermediary, we are able to process a US tax form for you, which means that you sign a form, which basically enables us to collect the full amount, or up to the full amount, from the US. So instead of you getting £700 tax at that 30% from 1,000, we can collect that full £1,000, which obviously, if your music is getting a lot of usage in the US, it's very beneficial. And exchange rates. So PPL size and scales means that we have excellent exchange rates because we're dealing with large sums of money. So it means that we are able to optimize the money that we collect for our members, so you don't miss out on any revenue. So revenue and distributions. So this is our UK revenue. So usually what happens is when we collect revenue, it's not an instant process. If you think how many songs are being played on the radio or on TV shows, etc., in bars, clubs, even at this very instant, there's billions of seconds of airplay happening. So it takes a little while for the usage of the recording to come through to revenue going into our members' bank account. For UK, obviously, because we're based in the UK and we do collections ourselves, we're able to do that quite quickly. So usually we'll be able to pay out in the same year or just into the next year of the usage, which means because sort of COVID was happening in 2020, we are seeing a decrease in revenue more quickly than in international territories. So as you can see here, in 2020, our revenue has declined a little bit. As I mentioned before, with lots of those venues closed, it's sort of inevitable. If music isn't being used, then there's less money being generated. However, COVID really did impact so many businesses being closed that the decline was, it's not so much of a decline compared to the impact that maybe we were expecting. And obviously, that impact, we've had lockdowns, and different territories have had lockdowns worldwide. So that impact will keep going for, a period. We're not sure how long exactly. But that sort of explains the decrease in revenue, hopefully in the short term. So again, this is just a little overview of our 2020 revenue. So usually, quite a lot of our revenue will come from public performance and dubbing. So public performance being usage in public places, and dubbing. So dubbing is when, let's say, a restaurant chain hire a company to create a playlist for them to play out in all of their stores or in all of their restaurants. So it's sort of a subsection of public performance. So broadcast revenue and international revenue are the biggest earners here in 2020. As I mentioned, international revenue, we won't probably see the impacts of COVID for a little while longer, and it will be spread out a little bit further. And that's because different territories worldwide pay out at a different time. So, one territory might pay out quite soon after the usage. Other territories can take years to pay that revenue out. So that's just a little overview of revenue split by where the revenues come from. So payments, which is probably the most interesting part of what I'm going to speak about, because everyone likes to get paid. So we make 4 payments a year. So we have quarterly distributions, and that's in March, June, September, and December. So when a recording receives usage, the revenue for that recording is collected and it is reported to us. So the radio station or the broadcaster will tell us, this recording was played here at this time. This is how long it was played for. This is the unique code or the ISRC that's linked to that recording. We will match it up with our database, which is why it's really important that if you own the rights to a recording, that you register the recording with us, and it will get matched up to that recording. And then what we will do is we will allocate some revenue to that recording based on where it's been played and various other factors. And then the performers that are linked to that recording will receive revenue as well. So if we look at a recording, obviously you will have the master rights holder. So that could be the label that it's released under, or if you are self-releasing, that would be you as the rights holder. We'll register that recording on our database. So you need to be a rights holder member to register a recording with us. So that's step one. The recording needs to be registered with us for us to collect. If you are a performer and you don't own the rights to the recording, you would look for the recording on our database and make a claim as to your performance on that recording. So if you performed on, I don't know, Hello by Adele, you would search Hello by Adele on our database, and you're logged in under your performer account. You would click to make a claim and say, my name is Ciara McAvoy, I played guitar on that recording and I'm a non-featured performer. So you would tell us that you what you performed on that recording. And once you're linked to that recording, when that usage comes in, then once you're on the performer lineup, then you will receive your split of that revenue. Let me know if you've got any questions on that. So managing your data. So when you are a PPL member, you will have free access to myPPL, which is our online portal. So when you log in, this will be your home screen. So essentially, you can do everything via our portal to make sure that you receive the revenue for the use of your music. So on the screen here, you can see along the top, you have your accounts. So you'll be able to see your performer account or your rights holder account or both. If you need to raise a query with us, you can click the queries button, and that will allow you to send a message to one of the team if you've got any queries. On the music tab, you will be able to make claims. So you'll be able to search our repertoire database to find recordings you performed on and make a claim to get linked up to the performer lineup. And the fourth tab along, your payments. So once you've received a payment, your statement will be on there and you'll be able to see what you've been paid for. And underneath, you can see you can search repertoire. So you can search our database. It's a little bit like a Google search. So you would put in the name of the recording and the artist and find the recording there. Register repertoire. If you are a rights holder member, then you can click there and you can add in all of the details to register a recording with us. So we'll need the name of the recording. We'll need the band or artist name. We will need the ISRC, which is the unique code given to a recording, and various other details such as the duration, which territories you own the rights in, and the performer lineup. So you can list who performed on that recording. And then once it's registered, any other performers that you haven't linked can make a claim on the recording. But ideally, if you know who performed on the recording, you would link everyone up at the start. So, like I mentioned, you can view your payments, view your statements, you can update your contact details. Most importantly, update your bank details. That's very, very important. Make sure everything's up to date, because if we're trying to pay you and we don't have your details, that's not good. You can register your new recordings and releases with us, and you can manage your repertoire and make claims on existing repertoire as well. So what I would say is really very important, if you do own the master rights to a recording, is to make sure that you get them registered in the year that they are released. So let's say you released a recording in January this year. You will need to make sure that you have it registered by the 31st of December that year to make sure that any usage in 2021 is collected by us. Because remember, when a recording is played on the radio or in a shop or a club or a pub, they report the usage to us and we match it with the recording. if there's nothing to match it to, then we can't claim that revenue for you. So it needs to be registered. And we do have, you can register it in the year that it was released. However, when it spills over to the next year, then we can't back claim to the previous year. So it's really important that if you've had a release, that you get it registered, ideally either just before the release or just after, to make sure that we can claim the revenue as quickly as possible for you. For a performer, so if you don't own the rights and you're just a performer on the recording, if the recording is already registered with us, so let's say a recording was released in 2018, let's say, and you've suddenly heard of PPL, you didn't know it existed, but you performed on this recording that was released in 2018. What you can do is you can search our repertoire database for that recording. So you'd put in the recording title, the band or artist name, and find it. You would click to make a claim and tell us what you did on the recording. And for performers, so this is important, this is just for performers. Now, rights holders, it needs to be registered in the year it was released for us to claim the revenue. For a performer, we can backdate up to 6 years, provided that recording was already registered with us. So the most important thing is the recording's registered. So if you are making a claim on a recording in 2021 that was released in 2018 and it was registered in 2018, then we can add you to the performer lineup and pay you the revenue for the usage from 2018 to 2021 and going forward. So really important to make sure that you are linked up to everything as a performer within 6 years of it being released. But most importantly, if you have performed on a recording and you have found that it's not registered with us, you can either get in contact with us, but the best thing to do is reach out to the rights holder of the recording. So if it's being released under a label or someone else, you would reach out to them and say, hey, I've just seen on PPL that the recording I performed on isn't registered. Can you register it? Because as I said, if a recording's not registered, we can't collect for it. So that's really important. So this is just another screen, a little bit like I spoke about before. This is how you register your recordings. So if you do own the master rights to a recording, you will have this lovely screen for you. So registering a recording, as I mentioned, we'll need all of those details. We always say the more information that you can give us about a recording, the better, because it means that we'll be able to match what a broadcaster or a radio station is sending to us with what is on our database. So make sure that you add in all of the mandatory fields. So we'll definitely need to know the ISRC, which is the unique code for a recording. We'll definitely need to know the recording title, the band or artist name. And I'd also mention as well, in some international territories, there are different mandatory fields. For example, in some territories in Europe, duration is a mandatory field, and those territories will not pay out for a recording if you have not listed what the duration is. So really important to spend those few minutes getting all of that information down. If you're the rights holder, you should have all that information to hand as well. So really important. Also, to make the registration process easier for registering a recording, we have some sort of quick tips on the side here. So you can create a default. So if you are registering, I don't know, 20 recordings or 10 recordings where all of the information is the same apart from the title and the ISRC, what you can do is you can create a default and then just apply that default to all of those recordings. So you don't have to type in all of the details for all of the recordings every single time. So if you're registering a whole album where the lineup is the same, so it's the same 4 band members and the same violinist and the same guitarist for all of those recordings. Bottom left hand of my screen shows that you can create a performer lineup default where you can enter the information once and save it, and then you can apply that to recordings when you go to register them. But just to mention again, registering a recording is only if you own the master rights to the recording. So only if you paid for the creation of that recording. So if it was released via a label, they probably own the rights. If you're self-releasing and you haven't had any involvement from a label, or you haven't signed over the rights to anyone, then you are probably the rights holder yourself. So that would be your responsibility to register the recording with us. So this is just a little overview of what you can do with Register Repertoire. So on our website, we have some how-to guides. They are videos, as you can see, they're sort of 7 to 9 minutes long, but they tell you absolutely everything you need to know about how to register your recordings, how to manage your repertoire. So if you want to make any changes, editing, you can do that. But these videos are something that you should definitely bookmark if you are registering recordings. I would definitely recommend watch it before you go to register a recording, so you know what information you'll need. And then your first time registering a recording, I would have it playing on your tablet or on another tab. I'm pausing it and sort of doing it alongside. It's definitely helpful. So another really common question, and you've probably heard me mention it a few times today already, and you might be thinking, what is an ISRC? So I'm going to tell you. So an ISRC stands for an International Standard Recording Code. So it's the international system for identification of recorded music and music videos. Essentially, it's the unique code given to a recording. So it can be easily identified because quite often, you know, there'll be a song that has the same title, or there'll be different versions of the same song. They all need a unique identifier. So what happens is when you are in the mixing and mastering process, that stage of your release, you will need to have an ISRC embedded in your recording. So this is only if you are the rights holder of the recording, you need to worry about ISRCs. So the rights holder will give an ISRC to a recording. So what happens is you'll get an ISRC stem, which is the first 2 sections on your screen. So it will be 5 letters long. So it will have a country code. So that will either be, you know, if you're getting it from PPL, that will either be UK, or it will be GB, or our new country code is GX, because we've run out of country codes. We've allocated all the UK and the GB ones. So that will be your first 2 letters. Then you will have your unique code. So this will be a code just for you. So it'll be 3 letters together that are just for you. So it could be, like on the screen, UK AAA or UK ABQ, or whatever it may be. But you would get that from PPL, and it's free to get. So you can just log into your account and you can request an ISRC. You can also, if you're not a member of PPL, you can get one even without being a member. Just go onto our website and type in ISRC, and you'll be able to see the process there. Then the next digits are up to you. So you have your unique code at the start, which is your stem. Then you can create the rest of the digits yourself. So usually what people do is have their stem, which is the UK AAA or whatever stem you're given. Then the next 2 digits will be the year of release. So usually that would be the last 2 digits of the year. So if you were releasing a recording this year, you'd put a 21 there for 2021. If you released it in 2020, it would be a 20. 2017, it would be a 17, so on and so forth. Then the last 5 digits there, that is completely up to you what you want to do. Most people go up sequentially. So for the first recording, in this example in 2005, it is 4 zeros and then a 1. And then the second recording they released in 2005 would be 4 zeros and a 2. The 100th recording that they would release in 2005 would be UK AAA 0500100. So it'll be 100 at the end, but it will always be 12 digits long. So really you're in control of what you want your ISRC to be. Once you use the stem that you're given, then the rest you can work out for yourself. But I would recommend going up sequentially so you know that your second release of the year will have a 2 on the end. I wouldn't recommend giving it sort of random numbers that you won't be able to remember unless you've got an extremely good memory. So making a performer claim. So if you are just a performer or you've performed on recordings that you don't own the rights to, you will need to make a performer claim for recordings that you're not already linked to as a performer. So to do this, you can go to the music tab, which is the 3rd tab along on my screen. And what you will do is click the 2nd tab down there, which is start a claim. And like I said before, it's a little bit like a Google search. You will search for the recording title and the band or artist name, or just the recording title. You can add as many fields as you want to narrow down the search. So you could search for a recording title that includes a certain word or excludes a certain word. So it's really up to you how you want to search. And essentially, once you find the recording that you want to make a claim on, that you've performed on, you will click on the right-hand side to tick the box to say that that's the one you want to select. And a little box will pop up that says submit a claim. When you click on that, it will take you to your claims basket, which is essentially this little section here. So submit a claim. It's a little bit like if you have like an online cart or an online basket. You select all the things that you want to put in your basket, but to make sure that they are put through, you need to go to your basket at the end and check them out, essentially. So once you go to your basket to submit a claim, it will ask you what role you played in that recording, what contribution category you are on that recording, and I believe the country of performance, so where you performed on that recording. So when it comes to contribution categories, we have 3 different contribution categories, which will determine your share of that recording. So unlike PRS, I believe you put in a percentage share of your right to receive money for that recording. With PPL, it's all based on the contribution category. So the 3 categories are contracted featured performer. So that is if you are the main performer on that recording. So Adele would be the contracted featured performer on all Adele tracks because she's the main performer on that recording. If there was a recording that was Adele featuring Rihanna, let's say, so she's still listed against the title of that recording. However, she's not the main performer of that recording. So she would be the other featured performer, sort of the secondary performer to the main performer. Then the 3rd category is non-featured performer. So that's if you usually aren't listed against the title of the recording. Maybe you are a session musician or similar. Then you would be a non-featured performer. So maybe the person who played guitar on the Adele featuring Rihanna track. But if you've got any questions about that, pop them in the chat, or if you've got any really specific questions, you can pop them over in an email to us as well, and we can help you out. Then all that's left to do once you've added all of those details to the recording is to click submit, and then either the claims will be automatically accepted, or you will get an email to say, we've received your claims, we need evidence of your contribution. So in that case, you would then need to submit some evidence to prove that you performed on that recording. So that could be label copy, that could be MU forms and the like, or you could send us a link to credits online, such as Discogs. So maximizing your membership, how to make the most out of being a member. So our top tips. Make sure that you're registered correctly. So make sure that you have the right account with us. So if you're a performer, make sure you've got a performer account. Rightsholder, make sure that you've got a Rightsholder account. And if you are a self-releasing artist, you will need both of those, as I said, to claim both the performer and the Rightsholder share. And I would also say as well, if you are a Rightsholder and you've also performed on that recording, you will need to add yourself as a performer to the performer lineup. Only the performers listed on the performer lineup will get paid. Okay, so don't think we've sort of got a crystal ball and know that you've performed on that recording. If you've registered it, you need to be listed on the performer lineup. So register with PPL for international collections. As I mentioned before, a big chunk of the revenue that we distribute for our members is from international territories. So make sure that when you are signing up, or if you're already signed up, make sure that you've got international collections with us. And another thing, keep your account details up to date. I can't tell you how many people forget to update their bank details or don't update their email address, and we have revenue for them and can't release it. So make sure that you update your bank details, update your address, your email address, to make sure everything is up to date. And some more tips. So manage your repertoire. If you're a Rightsholder, make sure that you register the details of your recordings in the PPL database. Really important, as I mentioned before, that you don't go past the calendar year that it was released, because if it's had any airplay in that year, we can't collect for it the next year. So make sure it's registered as soon as possible. And if you are a performer, make sure that you are linked up to the recordings that you've performed on. Please don't assume that the person who's registered that recording knows that you've performed on it. It's up to you to make sure that you are linked to everything that you should be on our database. And if you want to check how which recordings you're registered to, when you log in to myPPL, on the home screen, there's a button that says Search Repertoire. If you click on that button, there's another button that says My Repertoire. So if you click Search Repertoire and My Repertoire, and then click Search, it will bring up a list of all of your repertoire, all of the recordings that you are linked to. And if there's anything that you've performed on that's not in that list, you will need to then go and make a claim to make sure that you are linked up to that recording to receive any revenue. As I said, within 6 years of that recording being registered with us. And lastly, last top tip is to bookmark our website. As I showed you before, lots of useful information on there about ISRCs, how to make a claim, how to register recordings, etc. So really, really handy website to have on your favorites. So just to finish off the presentation here, and then we'll do some, sorry, going to choke, some questions at the end. So if you've got any questions, submit them now and we'll have some time to go through them. But our contact details, so that is our phone number on the screen. So if you've got any questions, give us a call and we can talk you through how to best go about either maximizing your membership. If you can't find a recording that's on the system, if you want to sign up with us and you're not sure how to go about it, you can visit our website. But if you're unsure, you can give us a call or an email. So our opening hours for the phones, 9 to 5. And also, would really recommend following us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We often post about different funding opportunities that we have, as well as updates about you being a member and different things that we have going on at PPL. So I've run through a lot there. I'm sure there's lots and lots of questions that might be running through your mind at the minute. Please do pop them in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing just so I can see your questions. There we go. So I hope that was useful. Let me have a little look and see what questions we have.
Very useful. That was really, really helpful. And thank you so much once again. We've had a few questions in. Let me go for the first one. So someone asked, if my song has been used on a Netflix show, do I still get something? Although I was paid for the licensing company said that they haven't been paid yet. I guess that's two parts to a question. So
yeah, so that's a good question, and one that we get quite a lot. If your recording is features on a Netflix show, are you going to get paid for that usage from PPL? And the answer is it depends. So if it is, we don't license Netflix directly, essentially. So if it is a Netflix original, we wouldn't collect for that, because Netflix essentially would license that directly from the performer or the rights holder. So that would, the license isn't with PPL to collect, it's direct. So you would need to reach out to the broadcaster, to Netflix, for that, or the TV company. However, as we're seeing increasingly, Netflix will take shows from other places and have them on their platform. So let's say a TV show that was first aired on BBC is then put on Netflix, then we would collect for that because we collect from the BBC. So essentially, so it sort of depends if it's actually coming from Netflix or if it stems from somewhere else where it hasn't been already licensed. So if it's already been licensed through the TV company or the broadcaster, we wouldn't collect for that. However, if it hasn't, and it's from the likes of the BBC or Channel 4, then we would collect for that. I hope that answers that question. It sort of depends where it stems from, but if anyone's got any really specific questions about that, you can reach out to us on email and we can take a look into it.
Perfect. So if there's an agreement in place that you're going to get paid via PPL for anything, if that company then licenses it to a company like Netflix or Amazon Prime, for example, your agreement with the original distributor will be in place.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's called something called secondary sales. So so if a program is on the BBC and your music was used in that, we obviously license the BBC. If the BBC then sells that to Netflix, or Netflix buys that, then yes, we would collect for the usage of that recording, provided that there wasn't a direct license in place with the broadcaster.
Okay, no, perfect. That's really helpful. All right, next question from George. He says, thanks, very informative. Do you collect for recorded performances commissioned by TV production companies, please? i.e. the music has not been released by a record company.
So let me just get that right. So if a recording isn't through a label, but it gets played on a TV show,
do you collect for recorded performances commissioned by TV production companies?
So if it's directly commissioned by a TV company or a broadcaster, then we wouldn't collect.
Okay.
So essentially, you'll only either get paid by the broadcaster or by PPL. It wouldn't be both. So if there's a direct license in place between you and the company, then we wouldn't collect for that. However, if it falls into a category that we do collect for and you haven't been, you haven't received revenue from that directly as part of a direct license, then we would collect for it. It really just does depend. But as I said, if anyone's got really specific scenarios that they want to reach out, you can pop us an email or give us a call and we can discuss it.
Yeah. I think if you've got specific questions, please do call the PPL line, and they're really helpful. I've done it myself before. It's very, very, very helpful and informative. Next question is, do you collect for performers on library music?
So we don't collect for library music. So that's not something we collect for. We collect for commercially released recorded music. So library music isn't something that we collect for now.
Okay, and as a performer on the recording, is it a percentage amongst the other performers on the track, and are these percentages equal?
So that really depends. So it depends how many performers are on the recording, what categories those performers are on. So it really does depend, but I'll give an example. So usually the featured performers, so that would be the contracted featured performers, the main performer, and any other featured performers. So usually an other featured performer is when a recording is someone featuring someone else. So that's someone else that's featured would be another featured performer. So usually the featured performers would receive about 65% of the revenue if there's non-featured performers as well. Obviously, percentages will change depending on the categories of the different performers, how many performers are on that recording, etc. For example, if you have a choir on a recording, the percentages are obviously going to be smaller per performer versus if it's just you performing or you and one other person. So it really does depend. I can't sort of give a definite answer without sort of having an example there, but yeah, I hope that explains it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe just for me, following on from that question, what you're saying is that if someone holds a slightly more prominent position on a track, say you are the main artist versus if you are a musician or instrumentalist on the track, your percentages will probably be slightly less depending on your category in that contribution.
Exactly. So it's based on the category. So contracted, featured, other featured, or non-featured, rather than the role.
Okay.
So yeah, so the role has a lot less to do with the percentage or how much you're going to be paid versus the category. You know, you could be a contracted featured triangle player versus a non-featured vocalist and receive more than the vocalist. It really depends what category you're in. But as I said, if you're, you know, the most prominent person, if it's your recording and it's, you know, your name against the recording title, then you're likely going to be the featured performer. And if your name's not against the title, in very broad terms, obviously there are exceptions. But if you have been asked to perform on the recording as a session musician or something like that, then it's likely you would be non-featured. And that would be the smaller share. So the biggest share would be if it's your track and you're the main performer, and then the percentages sort of decrease if you are a non-featured performer. But what I would say, sometimes people ask, you know, is there any benefit of, you know, claiming multiple times on the same recording? And what I would say, so with PPL, we will only pay out for the highest contribution category. So if you put yourself down as the contracted feature performer and a non-feature performer, we'll pay you as the contracted feature performer. There's no benefit in sort of adding yourself as both. For a non-feature performer, I would always advise non-feature performers to claim as many roles as they've performed. At PPL, we only pay out for one role. However, in some international territories, they will pay out for multiple roles. So if you are a guitarist and also a pianist, for example, it might be in your benefit to add both of those roles. Because in some territories, it's only a few, but in some territories, they will pay out per role.
Do you know what territories they are? Sorry to put you on the spot.
There's a few in Europe. I'm not sure I would say exactly which ones they are. But yeah, I think some of the big European territories, I believe, pay out per role or pay out for multiple roles. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So next question is it compulsory to encode the ISRC in each recording? Because I totally forgot to do it.
So yes, it's really important to put the ISRC in your recording. Reason being, that is one of the main ways that we track usage and get reported usage of a recording. So what I would say is, yeah, it is one of the main ways that we track usage. So if a radio station is playing a recording, they will track that by the ISRC, along with other things. So if it doesn't have an ISRC, it's not the end of the world, but it is, you're sort of at risk of things not getting reported if it doesn't have an ISRC. So yeah, maybe I would encourage that person maybe to give us a call, and we can chat through what you could do if you haven't embedded the ISRC into the recordings, and we can give some advice on that.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's all the questions that we have. Unless anyone wants to drop any in the last couple of seconds. But thank you so much, Kira, for hosting this session. I think it's definitely helpful. Probably a lot of people are going to have to kind of go over some of the things that you said afterwards as well. So I'm sure that you guys will probably get a lot of calls. But yeah, no, it's been very, very informative, and something that I think is really needed and really important for the creator community and the musical community that we have on the platform.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me. And as I said, if anyone has any questions, if you sort of think about things, or maybe log into your PPL account later on, and come up with any questions, we do have the little queries tab, or 9 to 5. You can give us a call, and yeah, we're happy to answer any questions, because it's complicated. It's not sort of really straightforward some of the time. So yeah, we're totally open for answering any questions.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. This will be available to watch on demand for our creators. So if you missed anything or just need to check something back that Kira said, please do watch back in your own time. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next session.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.